So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming along tonight. We are going to try and make this as short as possible. We're going to try and not keep you the full length of time, but we do need to go through various things with you just to make sure that you're 100% sure of everything. So, firstly, well done for nominating yourselves. It's a big first step. I know it can be quite scary, so well done. You've done the hard bit. So we're going to go through various things today, but we will cover what that's going to be.
Want to dim the lights?
Yes, please.
So this is just a list of what we're going to cover. I guess we are going to go through a reasonable amount. However, most of the stuff we're going to cover is going to be in your candidate booklet. So please do feel free to kind of refer back to this at various points. Additionally, we're recording the briefing, so you'll basically be sent a video out afterwards so you can watch it back. You'll have an opportunity to ask questions as well at the end. And also in your booklets you should have, like in your packs, you should have a notebook. So if at any point you need to scribble down some notes or anything, please feel free to do so.
That notebook is entirely yours. Do with it whatever you like.
This is yours. The notebook's entirely yours. If you feel you need to jot something down, please do. We'll also be making sure to send out the slides as well. So we'll be covering a fair amount, but please, if not all of it kind of sinks in, please don't go, like generally, you know, you can refer back to this, you can ask us questions. We'll be sending stuff out afterwards as well.
So this is a quick little intro to who your elections team are. So Peter Robertson, who's on the very left, you will never see. He works at NUS. He is the returning officer for our elections. You won't ever see him. If you were to make a complaint or make an appeal, you may get a judgment from him, but you will, unless something goes wrong, you will never see him. You'll never hear from him. You don't even really need to know he's there.
He's our overlord.
I had a great time trying to find a photo of him that wasn't horribly blurry or from 20 years ago. So it kind of gives you an idea. Gemma is our interim membership services director, so she is one of the DROs. I'm going to go the other side if you're all right to click, just because I'm not visible to everyone. So Gemma's one of our DROs, so you may well see her around. She is not necessarily going to be your first port of call, but you may well see her, especially if we have to do anything around rules. I'm the KSU Academic Communities and Student Voice Manager, so my name's Nellie. I'm the other DRO. So basically, Deputy Returning Officers, our role is if you make a complaint, if you have any concerns, if there's anything kind of throughout the elections process that doesn't feel quite right, we're the ones that will make the initial decision, and then NUS would uphold any decision. We always consult with them just to make sure we're doing the right thing and that it's fair with other unions and what's going on around the country. Dan?
I'm Dan, so I'm the Senior Student Voice Coordinator at KSU. I guess how to describe my role, it's just a lot of democracy stuff really, elections, parliament, change it, just a lot of democracy stuff. So I really do play quite a large role in the kind of operational side of elections and just do a lot of stuff around Lee Kent really, that's kind of my job.
And then our other two members of our Student Voice team are Sol and Abba, who are sat at the front. They are less directly involved with elections, but you will see them plenty around during the elections period. And their kind of roles sit in other bits of representation within the Student Voice team, but they will still be very present. You'll still see them around during voting week and campaigning week. We are us four are kind of your core elections team, and these guys are kind of very much helpful, but backup support, and are less involved in things like decision making and if there's any complaints and that kind of stuff.
So this is our kind of values and behaviours at KSU. So this is kind of, I guess, what we aim to achieve as a students' union. Just a quick kind of rundown on what we are. So we're a charity, we're completely independent of the university, and it's our role to kind of support students, whether that's through representing them, through student activities, so like clubs and societies, offering advice, as well our kind of commercial outlets, all the money we make from those goes back to kind of supporting students. But essentially, this is what we do and what we aim to do. And as an officer, if you were to be elected into one of the roles, you would kind of play a key role in really kind of bringing this to life.
You're expected to embody these values effectively as an officer.
Here are a bunch of skills, I guess, that you'll kind of pick up during the kind of process. It's quite a unique thing to do, running for election. A couple of us in the Student Voice team have done it, but it's a real opportunity to kind of grow in confidence and really pick up some unique skills that you wouldn't otherwise get elsewhere and can really kind of serve you well and kind of later on. Project management, communication, public speaking, marketing, volunteer management, time management. These will be all stuff that you'll be able to kind of learn and kind of improve on by being part of the Lee Kent process.
So what is the role of an officer? So it's full-time, so 35 hours a week. This is why we say you cannot do it alongside your studies, because it is a full-time job. It is salaried, so you are paid a proper wage, and you get a huge amount of kind of training and support and coaching to support that alongside it. That is stuff you wouldn't normally get until you got much further on in your career and kind of were doing coaching one-on-one or in a much more detailed setting. The role descriptions are all on the LeakCamp webpage and in your little booklet. In terms of what an officer does day to day, it varies hugely. No 2 days the officers look the same. They will be in different meetings, they'll be running different events, they'll be helping advocate for students in different settings. It's really hard when kind of get that discussion of, oh, could you just outline what a day looks like? No, we really can't. Like, one day you might be helping set up laser tag, the next day you might be meeting with the university about the future of something. It's a hugely varied role, but that makes it really exciting and really fun. So in terms of what this would look like if you're successful, we have an induction day that's normally around May. We're just finalising dates, and that will depend on when the successful candidates would be available around assessments and things, because we know you're all studying at the moment. But that's a kind of intro day with key people from the university, key people from the union, giving you a really good insight into what it'll be like before you start, but also making sure we've got everything set up for you ready for when you start. So if there's any adjustments that you need, or there's anything that particularly works better or worse for you, making sure that we're aware of that before you start so that we can help put that in place. And then the roles actually commence at the end of June. So this is why, again, we say, like, if you are a PGT student or something and you're not finishing until September, you need to chat to people about what that process would look like. People have done it, they've figured it out, and we can help with that. And then there's a residential training week, so that is a week where you go and meet your uni officers, you cook for each other, you spend loads of time together. It's a really, really good opportunity to get to know each other really well, because you'll be working super closely for the following year. So that will have staff members like myself and Dan and Sol and Amber and Demi and the kind of marketing team. Everyone will come and we'll do sessions on kind of key things you need to know. So it's a very information intense week, but it's also really fun because you're really getting to know each other and really figure out what you want to do with your role as an officer. And then the term is very much around the academic year. So you start in June and you end in June. So that gives you time before the academic year starts to kind of get settled in and really get going on your campaigns. And that gives time at the end for you to kind of wrap stuff up right at the end of the academic year with the new structure, and make sure that you've finished up anything you want to before you leave. Obviously, it's worth saying, you can have 2 terms as an officer, so if you were successful this year and reran next year, you could be up to 2 years in the role. It is capped at 2 years. That's a requirement in the legal framework that we work under.
And then I guess with that,
Demi
Demi from our marketing team, if you'd like to...
Oh, round of applause, guys, come on! Can you see me in the camera? Do I need to move this way?
Yeah.
Hi everyone! Cool, so my name's Demi, so I'm the marketing manager at Kent Students' Union. So I've been working at KSU for about 4 years now, so I'm one of 4 or 5, I think, of us in the marketing department. So basically just wanted to come and give you a little bit of an idea of what it's like in terms of what you're doing when you're working within the marketing team. So obviously, yeah, officer visibility, so it's essential. When I say essential, I mean essential, that you are visible as officers, obviously for KSU on our platforms, especially obviously social media. So we work a lot on Instagram and TikTok as well, but the main platform is Instagram. That being said, I know not everyone's like super happy with being on camera and things like that, but as time gets on and as you get a little bit more familiar with the role, you'll naturally be able to evolve into that and feel a little bit more settled in with what you're doing and being able to, be the face, talk about exciting things that are coming up or any campaigns that we have that are really important to you and what you're doing, basically. So as it says, obviously this is a better understanding of who you are and what you do. So obviously, it's a collaborative process, obviously with yourselves and me and then the marketing team. So we're here to help you get the most exposure as possible, basically. We also have a separate Instagram channel, so if you don't already follow the Kent Students' Union Instagram channel, I recommend you follow that because I run that account and I really would appreciate all the follows we can get. And also it'll kind of give you a bit of an insight into what all of our officers previous officers have done. Just, yeah, it might be easier for you to visually see that. We also have a KSU officers account as well. Sorry, yeah, that's fine. It was just wrapping that up. We have a KSU officers account as well, which is basically more led by the officers. If that's like ad hoc bits or bits and bobs that go out. But obviously, yeah, I help you with that as well. So you'll be working with the marketing team throughout the year to promote key KSU campaigns and activities, as I mentioned. So like Give It a Go, Summer Ball, Welcome Back Fair, History Months and more. So you'll have regular catch-ups with myself and the marketing team, and we'll talk through each week about what's coming up, projects that are going on, and yeah, just making sure that you feel supported by us, and yeah, just feel like you're giving the best that you can. My advice probably would be just to have fun with it as well. And obviously it's daunting, especially obviously you're like, oh God, here's Demi again with the camera. I've got to say something to the camera and got to be posted. But it's so important. It's so important for the student body to see your faces and see the work that you're doing, because it's so important that the work that you do. So that's why we're here and that's why we do what we do. So yeah, I hope that kind of explains it. Does anyone have any questions? I know I waffle a little bit. So if anyone's got any questions, or if you don't want to say now and you have any questions, just let me know and I'm happy to answer.
We'll have a break halfway through, so if you want to directly ask Demi anything, you absolutely can.
So basically, you'll have fun with me if you are successful enough to become an officer. You'll be working with me and you'll have lots of fun. So
I guess the key thing is you guys are the voice of students. So if you're not publicly out there being seen and, you know, having those conversations with students, you're not effectively doing that role. So it's like we can help you build comfort in if you're not naturally someone that likes being on camera. Demi and the team are very good at that and just going, just do this and it's fine.
Yeah. It's a really good skill to develop as well, being more confident on camera and recording bits, and yeah, I guess as well, kind of some of what you'll kind of be promoting would kind of vary on the role. So History Months is typically kind of sort of the well-being role. Other stuff more like Give It a Go, and Varsity would be more typically sort of the activities role. So it can like vary as well depending on what role you are going for.
We also do like news articles, bits on the website and bits and bobs. So it's not just social media based, but a lot of the job predominantly would be involved in social media. That makes sense.
So yeah, this is my bit. So we're just going to quickly run through, I guess, how our elections work. So we use a slightly different electoral system to what is used in UK general elections. So in UK general elections, it's a system called first past the post. Very straightforward. You get one vote, X next to one option, and then just the candidate who wins the most votes basically wins the election. For us, we use a different system. We use single transferable vote. So rather than sort of voters basically just marking one X, they get to rank their candidates in order of preference. So 1 next to their first choice, 2 next to their second choice, and so on and so on. Additionally, there's also the option for reopen nominations, abbreviated as RON. What RON is, it's kind of like a spoilt vote, but basically it gives students the option if they would want nominations reopened and they'd like kind of the election to be essentially run again, they can vote for that as well. So that's another option that they have on the ballot. That obviously doesn't exist in UK elections when you're voting in the general. But yeah, that's what we mean by RON. It stands for reopen nominations.
It's not a human called Ron, and it has happened. So it's not an impossibility. It has happened before.
And then the winner is the candidate who gains the most preferences in order to meet or beat the quota. So this is where, again, there's a bit of a difference from first past the post. In first past the post, you just need more than another candidate to be elected. So one candidate could have, say, 35%, and then another candidate could have 34%. That candidate who's got 1% more would won the election under that system. On the single transferable vote, there's a quota, which is 50% plus 1 of the total vote, and in order to be elected, a candidate needs to meet that. What that means is that whoever is elected, after potentially several rounds of voting and distributing preferences, has kind of a majority of support. Essentially, it goes through kind of like an elimination process where the candidate who has the least amount of votes is eliminated, and then their second preferences are redistributed to the remaining candidates, and so on until one candidate reaches that quota.
This system is used because it's considered to be fairer. If your person gets the lowest number of votes, doesn't mean that your vote is effectively doesn't do anything. It gives more of an opportunity. So this video explains a bit better.
Nerdy political science people like me rave about the single transferable vote. We much prefer it than first past the post. It avoids a lot of the kind of issues that you have with this system. And here's a video that will explain it better than I can.
Let's turn it up.
Why you should vote. But the big question is, how does it all work? Well, here's a quick guide of how the election process happens. There are two main systems of how elections are conducted. You might already be familiar with the one called first past the post. It's what's used in the UK general elections, and it's very simple. You cast your vote for the person you want to win. Then, all the votes are added up, and the person with the most votes, whether it be a big or small majority, wins the election. Student union elections are conducted through alternative vote, which is slightly different. Instead of voting for one candidate, you preference the candidates in order of who you want to win. And you can also vote for reopen nominations if you don't like any of the candidates. The difference here is that unlike first past the post, we have this 50% line which we call quota. A candidate has to meet or beat this in order to be elected. So, we count all the first preferences up, and if someone meets quota, they get elected. This means that they've secured the backing of over half the electorate. But if no one does, we eliminate the person who got the fewest votes and redistribute all their votes, this time looking at second preferences. We keep doing this until someone hits the quota mark.
So what this means is when you are talking to people about voting, it's really important that you encourage them to use as many numbers as they like. They don't have to number everyone on the sheet, but the point at which they stop numbering their vote stops affecting anything further. So it's worth saying to people, rank these as you would prefer them, because it means your vote does more. Doesn't mean their vote's any more or less valid. If they would only like one of those people and the rest of them they think are entirely useless, they could still just put one number. But the more they put, the more effect their vote would have, depending on how that moves forward.
Yeah, I guess the key bit for you to kind of know as candidates is that, you know, it's not a single X like in first past the post. When students will be going out and voting, it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of that sort of thing.
All the voting is done online, so they will only have numbers as an option. They won't have an option to just kind of mark that one. But yeah, they can use as many of those numbers as they like, up to however many candidates there are.
And because we always get asked this every year, yes, you can vote for yourself.
Yes. It's always a question. Okay, so we do reasons for standing. So this is quite different to some other students' unions. You do not write a manifesto. The reason for this is someone inevitably says they're going to make every pint on campus £1, which is illegal. Everyone that runs elections, somebody says £1 pints. Often it means people win. It's not something that's actually possible. So what we don't want you guys to do is promise things that then when you get into role, you absolutely cannot deliver, because it's really rubbish and you feel bad about it, but also it's not meaning that you're representing students' needs well. So we don't do a manifesto. What we do instead is ask you why you would make a good officer. So it's about you as a human, your experience that you can bring to that role. So we do the training with you and we provide you with data, we provide you a background of what's happening for students, what does the data say, what have students told us through feedback when you get into role. What you guys need to focus on is, what do you have that's unique? What's your background? What's your experience? What do you bring to the role that might be different to other candidates? That's the reason that you want to be an officer. So that is really important. So you can't make any promises on how you would deliver something. So one of the key examples of this is you can't say, I'm going to fix every disabled toilet on campus, but you could say, I'm passionate about accessibility. So it's about talking about what your passions are, about what you care about how your background affects what you would want to do in that role, but you can't directly make promises about what you do. That's just so you guys aren't set up for failure. Because I've been there. I did run here, but a long time ago. But when I ran at the other uni that I studied at, I ran against people who promised stuff that I knew was impossible, but they won because it sounded better to students. So this makes it more fair for you guys. When you come to candidate training, you do have to come to candidate training. When you come to candidate training, we'll cover this in a lot more detail about what you couldn't say, what you could say, and give you various examples. So this is just to make you aware. Don't go away and write a manifesto tonight, you won't be able to use it.
I guess the key thing is, you know, what kind of we want from this is about you, about, you know, who you are as a candidate, what you bring, what you're passionate about, you know, that sort of thing really. It's about you. So I guess here are kind of the sort of, I guess, a bit of information on kind of how to submit it. Again, all of this will be in the booklet, but essentially it's through an online form. And the deadline for that is next Monday. So you've got a little bit of time, you've got a week. You've also crucially got the weekend as well to kind of work on it. And it's through the online nominations form, which is where you went in and submitted your nomination in the first place. So on the Leigh Kent webpage, you would just go back into where you submitted your nomination and then fill out the online form. We have a screenshot in your candidate pack of essentially what that form will look like now. When you went in during the nomination period, it was very, very short. It will now look quite a bit bigger because it's got all these fields basically for you to fill in. So it's just a case of sort of going back into there and kind of, filling out your reasons for standing. It's not a deadline where there's flexibility. It kind of, because we have to be fair for everyone and we have to keep the process fair, it's not like a kind of uni assignment where, there can be like an extension or something. It is a hard deadline. And I guess if there's kind of potentially you have any issues with kind of making that deadline, we'd ask you that you reach out to us through our kind of elections email, elections@ksu.co.uk as soon as possible.
Also be aware we don't work over the weekend. So if you leave it till Friday to start it and suddenly discover you can't get in, then you're not going to hear anything to us until Monday morning. So just be clever about making sure you've got access to everything you need early.
You can update your reasons for standing up until the deadline. So you can go in and you can potentially sort of go in and change stuff if you kind of maybe want to tweak it a little bit up until the deadline. What we recommend is that you kind of draft it sort of outside of the nominations form, normally like a Word document, and then basically pop it from the Word document into the online nominations form. And again, if you have any issues with submitting your reason for standing, any difficulties, not sure of anything, please just let us know ASAP. It's our job to help support you as candidates, so please just kind of reach out. You can do that either through emailing us at the elections inbox, which is the inbox that you have been spammed from, or coming in person into the Mandela building, and we will be, because this is our peak time, there will be kind of staff in there to basically for you to speak to.
One of the reasons for saying draft it in a Word document is you have to save each section. It doesn't save the whole page. So in each box that you're asked to fill in, there is a save button. If you forget to do that and save a different section, it might lose one of the other sections. So you don't want to spend hours writing it and then you lose it because you've saved something else. So it's one of the reasons that we recommend doing this.
Yeah. On the kind of screenshot thing, I was trying to find it in there, but there's like a kind of save button next to every field. So we'll cover this again in the candidate training, but you basically need to go through and basically once you've submitted something, click the save button. Quick bit of guidance on your reasons for standing. So it's restricted to 2,400 characters, approximately 400 words. We use characters because of our system. It uses characters, so that's just something to get into, I guess, just get into your kind of head a bit. Obviously, normally for a uni assignment, you'd be working in words. We, however, are using characters. There's a character counter on the online form, and so that should give you guidance on as to whether you're kind of below or over the kind of sort of character limit. You've got your 2,400 characters on your reasons for standing, so essentially space to talk about yourself, and then you've got 4 bullet points about why you're best for the role. So these are generally quite short and snappy, and an opportunity to kind of really just sort of grab someone's attention. You can also upload a design version, so say you're quite into a bit of graphic design and you want to do like a kind of design sort of poster version, you can do that as well. It's the same deadline, Monday the 16th, midday, 12 noon, and it's uploaded via the same online nominations form. Additionally, we'll ask you to upload a candidate photo. This is so that it can you can be visible and students can know who you are. That's the same deadline as your reasons for standing. That's next Monday at 12 PM. And again, that's through the online nominations form. So it's all basically one deadline, and it's all kind of basically in one place. And there's guidance, I guess, on how to kind of take sort of a good kind of candidate photo and sort of what we're kind of looking at. It's kind of proper like portrait shot, all kind of in there.
Basically, passport photo, but you don't need to look miserable.
Don't get miserable.
So I guess, student priorities are maybe something you might not have come across before. So student priorities it depends what year you are. So student priorities is basically we've gathered a whole load of data over the last year. That's part of what Student Voice does. We gather what you guys are saying and what's being fed back and everything and bring it into one place. So what we've done is collated all of that data together. If anyone came and put a post-it note on our whiteboard at Welcome Back Fair, you added to this, and various other feedback mechanisms we've done throughout the year. We've then taken those away, looked at what the kind of key themes are that are coming up through that. There are 10 of them. Alongside voting for you guys, students will vote on which of the 10 they would like to be the priorities, and the top 5 will become the key priorities for the union to work on in the next year. So this is very much students choosing what the Students' Union does. It's worth you guys going away and getting to know these pretty well, because they're being voted on alongside you guys, so that they're likely to come up in discussions with students, they're likely to come up in debates, they're likely to come up in various different places. So it's worth you having a look through these, seeing which ones might align with your role, and then thinking about how you might want to talk about those if they do come up. So yeah, the top 5 priorities we use to drive campaigns and projects for successful officers and the union for the next academic year. We do have what they are for you. So the 10 priorities are transparency around the Kent-Greenwich merger, affordable and good quality accommodation, support students with the cost of living, reward students for their time, affordable, reliable and sustainable transport, employability, support and opportunities, develop student communities, student-conscious timetabling and assessments, improved mental health and wellbeing support, and student-driven decision-making. So there may be some that very obviously fit into your role, and there may be some you go, oh, that wouldn't be me. It's worth still thinking about how the role you're running for might interact with those, because what often happens is multiple officers will work on the same project. So you might be coming at the same issue from multiple different angles, different backgrounds, different conversations. Just to say, there's 10 there we said we'll vote to 5. We won't not work on the others. We will work on all of these, but the top 5 will be given the highest priority in terms of addressing those. So yeah, this is really nice, and students will be able to see when we announce the results and we announce who the winners are, they will also be announced what the top 5 are at the same time.
And again, this is another reason why it's more like a reasons for standing rather than a manifesto. So essentially this kind of will decide what the union kind of works on, and then when they're voting for you, they're voting for who they want to kind of work on that and who they want to represent them.
So you can still have personal passion projects you'd like to go away and work on, even if it doesn't fall under one of these. And you will still work with groups of students that have specific needs or specific issues. Thinking particularly marginalised groups and things, you won't not work with those. It's just that these are the kind of, from the data, the things that students are screaming to us most about and kind of getting very frustrated over. So this is the things that are coming through, as these would be potentially the top 10 things students would like us to work on.
Yes, we incentivise voting as well, so to try and encourage sort of students to go out and vote and to kind of be involved in the democratic process. We basically kind of have run several prize draws. So any student who votes will be basically entered into a prize draw to potentially win some of these prizes. We also do kind of specific cash prizes for student groups. So any student group that kind of obtains over a 50% turnout basically gets entered into a prize draw to win a £150 cash prize. And we've got 3 separate prize draws for the different student groups. So there's a separate prize draw for sports group, separate one for academic societies, and a separate kind of prize fund for sort of all other kind of sort of societies. We're also doing a prize draw for student reps as well, to kind of encourage them to vote and turn out. And we'll also have a prize spinner on the plaza as well. This is normally quite fun, but we have a prize wheel. Students who kind of can basically, they can show us that they voted on their phone, they get to spin the wheel and they get like a fun novelty prize. And we found last year that it really helps to kind of boost turnout and it went down really well. So
I have fun shopping. But yeah, the reason, by the way, for the split between the societies is just the size of them. Sports groups and academic societies tend to have hugely more members than other student groups, so it's just about trying to make it fair, because if you've got a student group of 6 people, it's very easy to hit 50%. If you've got a student group with 140 people, it's a lot harder. So it's just trying to make it fair across all student groups and give everyone a fair chance. So I guess this is starting to be the kind of stuff that maybe feels a little scary. So timelines, so obviously you are here in the candidate briefing, congratulations. The next thing is we are running our candidate training sessions. So you do need to attend one of these. You only need to attend one of these. You do not need to come to all of them. You only need to come to one. I saw some signs of relief then. You only need to come to one. We will run through some really practical stuff with you guys. What works well, what doesn't work well, what we think you need to think about, some top tips we have. There's 3 of 3 of the 4 of us out of the Student Voice team have run in elections, so we know what it's like. So it's stuff that we've kind of given as knowledge we have. We've asked past officers, the officers that are outgoing, all tips that they would give kind of people that are doing this process themselves. As well as staff members like from the marketing team and from our web team and things of kind of what would you say to someone that's running in the elections. So it should be a really, really useful session. We'll also go through things like posters and leaflets and how all of that malarkey works. But this one's very rules focused, this one's very practical, how you apply campaigning, getting the role.
We've got a timeline on page 24 of the booklet that includes all of these. The sessions are hybrid. So you can either attend in person at the Mandela building, that's the kind of our main office building next to venue, or you can kind of attend online. This doesn't apply to anyone in this room, but for those who are going to be watching the recording who couldn't make it back, since you haven't made it here in person, we'd recommend that you attend candidate training in person.
And then deadlines. So next Monday at noon, you must have all your forms back. If you don't have your forms back, we cannot move forward with you as a candidate. Basically, at that point, that's when we're getting everyone loaded onto the site for voting. So at that point, if we don't have your information, if it goes to 10 minutes past 12, I'm sorry, you're out of the election. That is just the way it has to work. It's the same as if it was a general election. Everyone has to hit these deadlines. Wednesday, the 25th of February, you have to have given us your social media logins. This is because you have to, we'll come to this, but you have to report all your expenses to us. So we can check that if you are someone who has loads of spare money, you haven't spent £100 on promoting a post on social media when your budget is only 30. It's a fairness thing. So what we will say when we come to social media stuff, don't give us your personal social media, set up a new one for campaigning. We don't want to see your private group chats with your friends. We really don't. And all we will do is just go in and check what's been paid for in that group, in that app. So I did this. You set up a social media account with your campaign name, whatever you want it to be. Pro tip, go and get one of the scheduling apps so that you can post to multiple social medias at the same time, because believe me, you will save yourself a ton of work. But you need to give us the logons for any of that stuff. At the same time, you also need to give us your expense form. This is why the two go together, because you might not have used your expenses and you might suddenly decide to promote a post. But we need to know that that's happened.
I guess as well, it's worth saying that your demographics form, code of conduct form, trustee declaration, conflict of interest declaration, we'll be sending these all out of our email. They're also all in this bag here. And so if you want to kind of fill those out kind of after we've done the briefing and hand them in to us now, you're absolutely more than welcome to do so if you just want to get those forms done so you don't have to worry about them. And then the reasons for standing in the candidate photo, that's all on the online nominations form, all in one place essentially. As I said, there's a screenshot of what that looks like in that pack as well, and it's the one key deadline. So it's just the one deadline you need to be aware of next Monday at 12 noon.
And then the last one on here is Thursday, 26th February at 5 PM, which is the close of campaigning. If you have any complaints at all, they have to be into us before that time. That's because once the voting has closed, we can't do anything. So if there was one to be come in after that, that takes away some of our ability as DROs to give sanctions if we wanted to. And at that point, everything is closed off. Until we do the count and then you guys find out. So that is an absolute deadline as well. We will not be able to do anything with any complaints that come in after that deadline. Hopefully, none of you have to make complaints. You're all lovely beans, and we hope to have nothing at all. But if there were anything, please get it to us before that deadline.
I guess a little bit about kind of debates and student media. So we work with student media to help kind of they help us cover and kind of promote the elections. And so we'll be having a kind of debate night next week where all candidates are invited to attend, where you can kind of discuss the kind of key issues that matter to students. They'll be chaired by student media, so they've been chaired by Inquire and CSR. CSR are also going to be broadcasting it on their radio, and it will be live streamed as well on the KSU Instagram channel. So it's a really good opportunity for you as candidates to get out there, and opportunity for students to know about who you are and what you're kind of passionate about. So we've got a kind of debate night essentially next Thursday from 6 to 9 PM in Sibson Lecture Theatre 2. So you will get the topics in advance. So you're not walking in kind of completely blind and not knowing what's going to be discussed. So there'll be debate topics, and we'll kind of send those to you in advance. So you'll have time to prepare, time to kind of sort of think about what you're going to say and stuff. Normally as well, candidates will get the opportunity to do an opening statement and a closing statement as well. So might seem a bit scary that there's candidate debates, but you know, we are there to help support you, and we don't want to feel like you're being kind of thrown into something. You'll get the topics, you'll be able to make an opening statement, a closing statement.
These don't have to be irate, they can just be a really open discussion. We're just trying to encourage people to kind of bring different viewpoints rather than it being like a Q&A of what do you think, what do you think, no, make it a bit more organic and have a bit more of a conversation about that. Because ultimately you're all going to have different background and different opinions on things anyway.
Also, CSR are going to be providing candidates the opportunity to record an interview podcast, as well as an opportunity during the campaigning period to go on to one of their radio shows and kind of have an interview. Nelly, you did it recently.
I did it, yep. It's not very scary, they're lovely. You just sit and have a chat with them with a microphone next to you, it's fine, it's very chill. The studio is literally a bank of computers with a couple of microphones, and the team are honestly so sweet. So yeah, don't worry about that at all. I was quite nervous and it just totally relaxed me, it was fine. And if you need a minute, they can play some music and then come back to you, so it's all good.
But it's kind of, it's another good opportunity for students to kind of find out like who you are and to find out about you. Yeah, we'll send out more info about student media coverage via email. So keep an eye on your inbox for kind of more sort of info on sort of this side of the elections.
So, kind of expectations, we would hope these would all be fairly obvious, but we do have to say them. So please be respectful to everyone. You're all in the same boat. It's scary for everyone. Everyone's stressed, but try and be respectful to everyone. But that also includes officers, other candidates, and KSU staff. We are all just ultimately here to help you. Follow the election rules. Yeah, so we will go through the rules in detail in a minute, and they're in your books, but we will kind of go through those. If you're elected as an officer, you do have to act professionally within the role and be really dedicated to championing student voice. We also often say it's fun because you're somewhere between a student and a staff member, but that means that you do still have to walk that line. And it can be really hard sometimes because you might have information that you know that friends don't know, and you have to kind of manage that and things, but it is also an awesome experience. You need to fulfill your role as an employee and trustee to represent all areas of the student body. So you do have to represent everyone. You don't have to agree with everyone's point of view, but you have to make sure their voices are heard. So you're always going to have someone that has a very different perspective to you. You have to still uphold their voice, even if you don't agree with it. And you need to tell us of any issues you think you might have meeting the criteria above ahead of time. If you have a concern that there is a specific group of students you don't feel like you can represent, you need to talk to us now. Basically because we can help you figure out whether that is something you think you could do or not. It's not worth putting yourself through the stress of campaigning if you honestly think that there's a group that you can't represent. But if you have any questions on that, just let us know. It's not huge.
And then, yeah, just a little bit on rules and regulations. So our leadership elections, they have to be free and fair. That's kind of a legal requirement under the Education Act. The elections to elect full-time officers, it's required they have to be free and fair. Because of that, we have kind of a set of rules and regulations that we expect all candidates and campaigners to follow. This applies to all candidates and also campaign teams as well. So it's not doesn't apply to you. If you have your friends in your campaign team as well, the rules also apply to them. Failure to follow the election rules may result in a sanction as laid out in the following rules and regulations. So if you do break the rules, there can be sanctions applied to you as a candidate in the process. Sounds scary. We're not here to that's.
It's just me and Gemma. We're not that scary. We're just human beings. And if you're a nice person and you do what you're meant to do, you won't have a problem. You can find a full list in your candidate handbooks, but we are going to go through them as a kind of overview to give you a feel for those, and then you can go read in more detail.
Yeah, so the rules are from basically page 12 to page 17 of the kind of candidate sort of handbook. And yeah, they're basically the full copy of them is there. There's also, you can find them on the Leigh Kent website as well. We are going to go through them this evening. We'd also recommend that perhaps sort of after this or at some point you just spend some time reading through them on your own. so that you can, again, just have a bit more of a kind of time to just sort of fully understand
And
them.
if there's anything you're not sure about, please ask us. It doesn't have to be today. You can drop us an email, you can come in and see us. But if there's anything you're unsure about at all, we would much rather you come in and go, I think I'm just being silly, but can I just check, than you accidentally do something that breaks one of the rules.
We've been doing elections for a couple of years now, so we've had all sorts of questions around rules and regs. So there is no such thing as a stupid question. We'd much, much rather that if you're unsure of something in the rules, you just asked us. And whether that's popping into Mandela, whether that's dropping us an email at the elections inbox, please just ask us.
I think the one big thing I would quickly highlight is just the bit about your campaign teams. You are responsible for ensuring anyone that is campaigning on your behalf is aware of these rules. Them being ignorant of them is not an excuse. It will still be counted as a rule break. That was the one major thing I will say. Getting your best mate who's been out till 3 AM at venues drunk and is hungover to come and do something and they break the rules isn't an excuse for a rule break. They do need to know. Okay. So, first rule. Candidates are expected to maintain the principles of free and fair election. Sounds fairly straightforward, right? Need to make sure everyone has equal opportunity and that there's nothing that you're doing that gives you an unfair advantage. That's basically what that rule comes down to.
And again, they're all kind of touched on sort of further in the booklet.
So rule 2, all Kent Students' Union and University of Kent policies apply to any election activity. Again, fairly straightforward. You break something that you would get in trouble for breaking as a student, you get in trouble for breaking it as a candidate. You still have to follow the same rules as you would for the university and any of our code of conducts and that kind of stuff.
I guess what that does mean as well is there are some implications for where you can place kind of campaigning materials and where you can campaign. So you can't campaign in Templeman Library or Drill Hall Library. That's because that's a university policy. They don't like it. They don't want that to happen. So you can't campaign in Templeman Library. Also, you can't campaign in the Mandela Student Centre as well. That's a neutral location. That's where we're based. So it's not appropriate for any candidate to be campaigning in there.
I guess the thing to think about the library is if you're studying and you're in the middle trying to get an essay in, if someone comes up and goes, hey, can I talk to you about my candidacy? You'd be really annoyed. So that's largely why the university doesn't allow it. We're trying to work on to see if we can get some posters up for you guys in the library, but that would be a case of there is a static thing that if students wish to go and look at, they can go and look at, but you're not actively campaigning in the library, if that makes sense.
And we do also have guidance around where you can put your kind of posters and campaign materials on campus in this booklet. So please make sure you kind of, refer back to that.
Candidates are expected to run campaigns retaining respect for other candidates and the process. Don't make your campaign into making somebody else look bad. It's just not a good look. But also you will very easily stray into breaking rules territory there. Make it about why you're an excellent person, not why the person next to you wouldn't be. Ultimately, it's going to get you more votes, but also it means you're much further away from breaking the rules. There is also bits about the process that, people don't always love. So the complaints process comes to us and then it goes to NUS. NUS's decision is final. There is no arguing with NUS. They return every student union election in the country, basically. So if they've made a decision that's based on 30 odd years of returning every election in the country, so that comes with a huge amount of background. So NUS's decisions are final, and as DROs we will always consult them if we're not 100% sure on something. Also means Kent University and Kent Students' Union staff don't have a right of reply. So if you guys make your campaign against a specific staff member, we can't say anything back. So that's really not allowed either, because picking on specific humans is just not very nice, and would directly break rules.
I guess rule 3 can be summarised as don't be a dick.
If you're a nice human, you won't break that one. Rule 4. So you should only engage in campaign activity that's accessible to all candidates. Do we think that it would be accessible to all candidates if you used your buddy's best friend's limo to advertise your campaign? No. Not everyone's going to have access to that. So this is where the candidate expense form comes in. So we will ask you for anything you've used in your campaign that's outside of, we will give you a campaign pack with a load of materials, we will print posters and leaflets for you. Anything that you spend money on that's outside of that, or that you get for free that has a monetary value attached to it, we would need you to put an expense on the form for that. So, for example, say you're a very arty human and you have a whole box full of fabric paints and brilliant art materials at home, and you go, oh, I've got them at home, they're free, I'll just use those. We would have to figure out what the associated cost would be because not everyone's had access to those. So if another candidate was to use those materials, they'd have to go and buy them. So this is why we give you a candidate pack that's got blue tack and string and t-shirts and fabric markers and bed sheets and all sorts of stuff in it, is so that you all have a good starting point to work on. And then we will also print posters and everything for you, so you're not trying to source out costs for those. But anything that isn't those things, you have to put some kind of value to. This just makes sure it's free for everyone. So if your best friend that's a DJ says he'll run you a club night, would that fit within your candidate budget if you were to pay for it? If not, you can't do it. So it's just thinking about that.
So Rule 5 is fairly straightforward. Candidates are expected to attend all candidate briefings, sign declaration forms as required, and attend candidate training sessions provided by Kent Students' Union. So the fact that you're here is a good thing. You're kind of being part of the process. You're attending the briefing. Essentially, yeah, we just need for you to attend briefing, attend training, and crucially kind of fill in all the kind of necessary declaration forms and reasons for standing forms. Those are required as part of the process. We need those forms, and we need you to fill out your reasons for standing for you to be kind of fully confirmed as a candidate in the elections. I guess if you're unable to attend a session, be it the briefing, be it training, say any of those times don't kind of fit with your schedule, please let us know and we'll see what we can kind of work out and how we can help. But yeah, the main part of Rule 5 is that the submission of declaration forms is required in order for nominees to be confirmed as candidates in the elections process. Basically, in order to go forward as a candidate in the elections, you have to get all those forms in for that deadline, Monday, 12 PM, 16th of February. Rule 6, all official Kent Students' Union resource and staff must remain impartial to election activity. So that means that we have to be neutral, university staff have to be neutral, but that also kind of has implications for candidates, potentially depending on whether they're student staff or whether they kind of have sort of teaching responsibilities at the university. So firstly, for instance, our spaces can't be used to advertise any candidates in a preferable manner. So we can't have sort of candidate materials in like Woodies, in like the library, in the library, kind of in venue. But we are allowing two specific kind of notice boards: the kind of big notice board outside Woodies in the park with Student Hub, and the notice board next to Campus Coffee on Templeman Library. Again, we've got guidance on that in the kind of booklet, but essentially you can't campaign in KSU spaces because again they can't be, it has to be neutral. It's neutral to territory.
The exception to that is Lead Kent Wednesday, which is a specific event. So we have put on a few specific events in our spaces for you guys to go and campaign if you wish to. You don't have to. There is no compulsory thing of going to venue, but if you want to campaign in venue, that is a specific night about Lead Kent. It'll be all black and yellow, and there'll be various things around the room to kind of help with voting and things. But where we've put on specific events, you can campaign in those spaces. Outside that, you can't. That includes like leaving leaflets on a table. You can't do that. They will just get binned and you'll lose leaflets, so you're putting yourself at a disadvantage when they could go somewhere else. So yeah, it is just partially being clever about what you're doing.
I guess if you're kind of KSU student staff, you can participate in the election in your capacity as a student member, but you must kind of remain impartial while carrying out duties while you're employed. So what that means is when you're on shift, you can't be wearing your campaign t-shirt telling people to vote for you. You have to be kind of completely neutral and not campaigning and not getting involved while you're on the clock, while you're on shift.
Also means you can't change your shifts. So if you worked at the Co-op and you normally worked in the bakery and you were like, oh, can I be on the tills this week? Your manager's going to go no. So it effectively means from while you're at work, nothing should change compared to your normal week. Nothing will change.
As well, kind of clubs and societies, they can endorse candidates. So they are entitled to endorse candidates, clubs and societies, and they do typically. We suggest that they host a hustings where every candidate can kind of speak to the society, but that's not a requirement. And if they do host a hustings, then they have to open it to every single candidate. It has to be inclusive of all candidates. But yeah, clubs and societies are entitled to endorse candidates.
And I would encourage engaging with them. That's generally where a lot of voters come from. So if you're smart about it, make sure you are keeping an eye out for anything coming from clubs and societies.
Rule 7, all election financial procedures must be adhered to. This is essentially, please be on top of your admin around election expenses. They are kind of a big deal in elections, because again, it's about ensuring that the election is fair, that everyone kind of has a level and equal playing field. So you kind of must record any expense that you've incurred on the candidate expenses form, and you must hand this in along with any receipts for stuff that you've bought to either us in person at Mandela or to the elections inbox by the deadline. And the deadline is Wednesday the 25th of February at 2 p.m. If you haven't spent anything because you've used everything that we've given in the pack, which is quite often, then you just have to you still have to return the form, but it just has to be blank. So regardless of whether you've bought anything for your campaign, you still need to return an expenses form. If you haven't bought anything, then it is just you just return to us a blank form, which is essentially, we take that as an indication of no spend.
You must have your receipts. If you're worried you're going to lose them, photograph them. And if it's something you've bought online and you don't have a physical receipt, make sure if it's Amazon or something, pull an invoice off. You need to make sure you have evidence.
Yeah. As well, if you kind of are using something that you already have in your elections, which people do, again, that has to be kind of recorded on the expenses sheet, and then you basically need to let us know what it is, and then we can then assign a cost to it. Typically, this is just me Googling how much it would cost to buy new, but essentially, yeah, even if, say, you've already got some paints or some, I don't know, like an odd pair of sunglasses you want to wear at the League Kent Wednesday, then, you know, we have to still assign a cost to that. Again, it's about fairness. We'll be giving kind of pre-made candidate packs, so you'll get these kind of next week at our kind of candidate materials workshop, which is in venue. That kind of has a lot of kind of the fundamental sort of stuff you need as a candidate. Essentially, that if you take that, you don't get extra kind of campaign budget. That's if you don't take that, sorry, you don't get extra kind of campaign budget. You have a total of £30 to spend on your election campaign, and we will reimburse that. So again, that's why part of the reason why we ask for receipts. Not only is it proof, it also kind of helps us to kind of reimburse what you've sort of spent.
We're a charity, so we have to evidence literally everything. So, yeah.
Slates are not permitted in the election as well. What that means is when two candidates run together on like a joint ticket, you cannot promote other members, other candidates on any physical or online material, and you cannot combine budgets. Again, that's about fairness. If you say you have like two friends who run together and they each combine their kind of £30 budget to create a £60 budget, again, that's not fair on candidates who don't have that option open to them. So again, it's just about kind of ensuring that the process is fair. Rule 8, campaigning may only take place during the campaigning period. So we define campaigning as essentially, it's both physical and it's online, and it's essentially going out and trying to gain support in the elections, trying to actively go out and get kind of students to vote for you. And it can only be, campaigning can only take place during the campaigning period. So that's sort of Wednesday the 18th from 9 AM until Thursday the 26th, 5 PM. So that's 3 days kind of in that first week, the campaigning week, and then it's all of kind of the following week, Monday to Friday.
So, key thing to be aware of here, if you're setting up social medias, you can make them, but don't make them public, follow anyone, or do anything else until we hit campaigning. Do not put anything on that page, do not do anything. If you do, you could get in trouble for it, because it could be classed as pre-campaigning. So you can make it, have it has no profile photo, have it as no posts, don't go and follow anyone, anything, before campaigning starts. And then once campaigning starts, then you can start posting. The other thing is, we talked about, you can tell people who you'd like to be in your campaign team that you're intending to run, that's fine. But you can't go up and say, hey, friend, vote for me when the elections come. So you can say, would you be up for helping me in the election? You can't say, vote for me, help me win this. You know, so it's being careful.
Rule 9, campaigning, we've done Rule 9. Rule 9, candidates cannot request for members to fill out a ballot in front of them or provide electronic devices for voting. So this one, I guess, is fairly kind of simple to explain. Imagine if you're voting an election, you wouldn't want one of the candidates in the election looking over your shoulder, seeing how you're voting, because that's not democratic, that's not fair. That voter could potentially be pressurised into voting a certain way. So you cannot request for members to fill out a ballot in front of them or provide electronic devices. For Lead Kent, essentially all of the voting is done generally online through the website, through people's phones. What that means for you as candidates is you should not be touching a student's phone, a voter's phone, because that is essentially like touching their ballot paper. In order to kind of help with this, we kind of provide NFC cards that you can kind of use, and you can give them, you can tap them on students' phones and it takes them to the Lead Kent webpage, or you could reprogram it to your campaign Instagram. So that way you can kind of promote students, you can promote the elections, you can send students into the right direction, but you can't, but that way you're not holding on to their phone and you're not.
So, for example, rather than me going up to Dan and going, oh, let me just do your phone over here, I'd be, if this is an NFC card, I'd be like, yeah, scan this card. It looks very different, right? So this is the intention. There's no way that can be misconstrued as you doing it. Anyone that can do contactless payments on their phone can use an NFC card. It's the same technology, it's just contactless effectively. Those cards are printed with Lead Kent. Anyone that looks at them, it's very obvious what they are. We use them throughout the year to do other things as well, so we will teach you how to reprogram them when you come to training. But yeah, don't be looking at somebody else's phone. And actually, if you're out with your campaigning materials, just keep your phone in your pocket, because it might be yours, but in a photo, do we know it's yours? It's just about being clever again.
Yeah. And again, this is something that I guess is quite serious, and we do have to be quite hot on, because you know, it is about, you know, the election being free and fair, and part of that is that people can't feel pressurised into voting a certain way, and that they're able to make their own choice freely and kind of without pressure. So again, this is a rule that we do have to be hot on. As we sort of will go through in training, we'll provide you with the NFC cards. It's just a case of, you know, tapping them so that way you're not touching a kind of any voter's phone.
We will also have voting booths on the plaza. There will be a huge black and yellow gazebo. There will be a huge gazebo, black and yellow everywhere. So if you get anyone that's stuck, just send them to us. We will be there the whole week of voting. So if you have any questions at all, any issues with someone where they're like, oh, I can't seem to get in, just send them to us, because we can deal with it. We can look at their phones with them. Staff will be clearly in lanyards and everything else. So it'll be very obvious that we're staff. So we can help them out. You guys shouldn't be, because it can get you in trouble. I guess the other thing to say here is, like, don't do the, well, you know, if you vote right now, I'll give you a freebie, because again, that can look really dodgy. So you can think about ways of going, oh yeah, I'll just give you this, but like nowhere near to do with like if you vote right now, because that can very easily start to look like this. I promise we're getting to the end of this bit, then we're going to let you go to the toilet, grab a drink, have 5 minutes, and then we'll show you who the candidates are.
So part of one of your forms is the code of conduct. So again, that's in there. So yeah, we ask you to kind of sign that, and it's important that you kind of essentially conduct yourself in line with that code of conduct. Respect for other candidates, students, Kent Students' Union and university staff, and the elections process itself. So again, one of your required forms, as per Rule 5, is the kind of code of conduct. We also have a student staff protocol that outlines the roles and responsibilities of Kent Students' Union staff, management, trustees, everyone. And again, that's something that's kind of, it's worth sort of bearing in mind.
Basically, the staff one comes down to, we're not allowed an opinion. We are not allowed an opinion in the election. That's not our place. And as student staff, anyone who's operating should be having an opinion while they're working as well. They can have an opinion as an individual, not when they've got a t-shirt on, not when they're working. So it becomes very simple. So very quickly, complaints and things. Hope we don't have to use them with you guys, but just to cover them. So complaints can only be made by completing an elections complaint form and emailing it to us. If you come and talk to us in person and we decide it needs to be a complaint, we'll still have to make you go away and do that. It's on the elections resource page, and you have to email it to elections@kent.ac.uk. It's the email we've been annoying you with. It's the email you continue to get stuff from. You must email it to there. All complaints have to be specific. It cannot be, they've been a bit close. It has to be, this happened here and then, this is what I saw, etc. You don't have to have photographic evidence. We don't want it to turn into surveillance state where everyone's filming everyone else. That's not a good vibe. Just enjoy the election. But if you do have footage or videos of anything that you think is particularly dodgy, then include that. All complaints have to be made in a timely fashion. If you see something in the first day of campaigning and you wait to tell us until the end of voting week, we're going to be a bit suspicious. But also, it makes it very difficult for us to be able to investigate it and apply sanctions as they're needed. So it's worth saying sanctions are not a kind of 3 hits and you're out system. It's done based on what's the impact been, what was the intention, was it an accidental thing, was it done on purpose? Like I said, it's me and Gemma, we're human beings, it's a human approach. It's like, was this really intended to be? Okay, what's an appropriate sanction that kind of mitigates that? And all complaints have to be submitted before the count begins at 5 p.m. on Thursday. Appeals. So if you're sanctioned, you can appeal to you can appeal mine and Gemma's decision to the returning officer. If that's something we get to a point of, if you have a sanction applied against you, we'll provide you with the information of if you want to appeal, this is how you do it. You guys don't need to know this information until we get to that point, but basically, you have to then email us within 12 hours of any ruling. You include the email of the outcome that you seek and any further evidence that you have that kind of goes, I didn't do that, promise. Kind of any evidence that you have that mitigates against that. This will then be sent off to NUS. They know when our elections are, they're very quickly responsive, they're aware that this is all going on. And then returning officer will endeavour to investigate and make any final rulings within 24 hours. You cannot argue with NUS, their decision is final. Yeah? I'm hoping none of you guys will get anywhere near appeals. And if we get complaints, they're really minor. I'm hoping. But just so you're aware, this is all here, this is all on the website, you can find this information.
Again, I'll just sort of briefly touch on candidate expenditure again. So candidate expenditure is defined as any cost associated with the purpose of promoting a candidate campaign. Items that you use in your campaign must be accounted for on the expenses form, whether you purchase it or not. So whether you bought it specifically to use in the elections, you've got to pop it down with the receipt. If it's something that you had beforehand, again, you've got to pop it down and we'll then assign a cost to it. So you can claim and spend £30 of funding from us for your elections campaign. That's reimbursable, so essentially that would be a case of you going out and purchasing what you would need for your campaign, and then after the elections we would reimburse that money to you. We'll also be providing you with a kind of materials pack and a printing allowance to kind of help your campaign. So we want to try and, we're aware that kind of it's admin for you to do, so we want to try and give you the tools you need to be a kind of successful candidate from the off. So we'll give you kind of some campaign materials, we'll give you a printing allowance for your posters, so that way you don't have to worry about that side of things. You must kind of, the deadline for sort of your expenses is Wednesday the 25th at 2 p.m. You must kind of make us aware of your campaign social media pages so we can check for sponsored posts. And it's the same deadline for your expenses form. So they've both got to go in by then. And the expenses form, as I've said before, includes invoices and receipts. Even if you spent nothing, we need that blank form and we take that as proof of no spend. Kind of failure to kind of, I guess, be on top of your expenses can result in sanction, because again, it's a fairness thing. It's about ensuring that, you know, the playing field is level, and yeah, so it is something you do have to be kind of hot on.
You don't have to wait till that date to send us it. If you know you're not going to spend anything, or you know you're not going to spend any more, or you're done with all of that, you can send it to us earlier. So, like, you don't have to wait till then. If you're a bit anxious about forgetting, then you can send it to us earlier. But yeah, this is really important. If you don't do any of the forms, you could be removed from the election. It's ultimately what it comes down to.
Yeah, so important to be on it with your expenses.
Right.
And then break time.
Quick toilet break, grab some water, anything you need. So as you said, this bit's confidential until candidates are announced, which is next week. It's exciting. But this gives you an idea of who you might be running against, and yeah, it's just nice for you to see. Tell me already.
I guess as well, it's all kind of at this stage provisional until, you know, obviously until that deadline next Monday when, you know, everyone's got the forms and kind of all that stuff in. So at the minute it is just a provisional list, but it should hopefully give you some idea.
So this is for present activities.
And again, Ron is not a person, Ron means reopen nominations.
We did once have someone being like, I haven't even seen Ron, and we were like, no. Okay. This is for education. And then for well-being.
My name is Nadia.
Okay, let us address that at the end. Just because we had some last minute changes with people today and it maybe we've missed one off, so let's chat about that at the end. Don't worry. But yes. One thing I will say is that is why we say don't make promises, because lots of people will make the same promises. You all have very different backgrounds and experiences, and that will ultimately be what shines through. This is why we also provide a lot of opportunities for you guys to get your voices heard and to be seen. Is that people can get a real feel for you as a human being, because ultimately it's a human being they're electing. It will come down to who they like the best, who they think is the best fit for what that role needs to be. So this is why we give, in the candidate training, we'll give you a lot more information about how to market yourselves. So that's why we say candidate training is really essential.
Yeah, so I guess as well, just key to reiterate that there's help and support available for you during this process. Firstly, we can kind of provide an extension letter that confirms that you've taken part in Lead Kent. If kind of you're struggling to kind of manage commitments in Lead Kent and being a candidate with your kind of academic deadlines. So yeah, please kind of talk to your lecturers first. But if you do need kind of a concession letter, an extension letter, please email us and we can kind of provide those. Also provide some candidate wellbeing resources as well. So you've got like a wellbeing book. It's got some kind of like mindfulness exercises as well as kind of signposting to kind of support services that are available. You will also get a candidate mentor as well. So this will be a KSU sort of staff member whose basically job it is to kind of check in and make sure you're doing okay. They're not there for you to kind of talk about election stuff. So queries about the rules and stuff, that should be directed to us. But they are there to just kind of basically check in with you and make sure you're doing okay. How you kind of respond to them is entirely up to you. You can meet with them, you can email with them. If, however, you feel like you maybe don't need them and you don't kind of want to kind of have a back and forth with them, you can as well. So it's entirely up to you as to how you engage with your candidate mentors. But
the one thing they cannot do is help your campaign in any way. So they can't give you advice on stuff, they can't proofread stuff for you, they can't do any of that. They are just there for your physical and mental well-being. That is the whole role. They're unlikely to be anyone anywhere near the election, so they probably don't even know any of the answers to your elections questions. You're much better coming to us so we can help you out with those. But yeah, they're lovely humans who have offered to give up a bit of their day to kind of help you and just make sure that you're doing okay and you've had some water and eaten a meal today and have gone for a walk and yeah, that you're really looking after yourselves.
And then we've got a week one kind of candidate check-in on Friday the 20th from 9 to 11 in the morning. This is in Templeman Seminar Room 1, so this is just a kind of a drop-in for you to come and speak to us and just kind of have a chat. And so for us, we can check in and see how you're kind of doing, how you're finding the process. There'll be kind of hot drinks and sort of pastries from Campus Coffee there, so opportunity to get something to kind of eat and drink as well. But yeah, just an informal kind of check-in where you can kind of drop in and sort of speak to us. We're available kind of all the way throughout to kind of sort of, I guess, help with sort of support and stuff if you're unsure of anything. Please email us at elections@ksu.co.uk. And as I guess we'd say, as candidates in Lead Kent, you are our priority at the moment. If you are coming to Mandela and you need to speak to us, we will drop stuff in order to speak to you. This elections is our main focus, and as candidates, you are the most important part of that. So you are our focus at the moment. So please don't forget that.
If you come in, just say you need to speak to someone from the elections team, and reception will get one of us for you. It's worth saying as well that week one check-in is the morning after the debates, so you may want to come and have a debates debrief with us. That's what happened last year. The candidates wanted to come and talk to us about how they found the debates and whether they were anxious after it or whether they were actually quite excited that they'd had that opportunity. But that room is genuinely quite wholesome.
Yeah.
Normally it's everyone just going, oh yeah, I felt that too, or like, yeah, no, you did amazing. It's really lovely generally, that space. But equally, if you need some quieter time with us and you want to kind of chat with us in that period, just let us know and we can kind of find another space another time.
So, any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
At this point, can you switch on what type of president you want to be, or is it finalised?
No, unfortunately, yeah. It wouldn't be fair otherwise if we showed you who the candidates were and then we let you switch. Any other questions? Yeah?
You guys said it's full time.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is it possible to balance it with our studies?
No. It's a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, 35 hours a week job. It's a proper job. So you can't do it alongside your studies, no.
So if you are midway through your degree pathway, you can intermit. So if you're elected and you're successful, you can basically take a year out of your studies to take up the role. But
The university's good at supporting that, and they will let you return to your studies at where you stopped them effectively. So it just puts a pause in the middle so you can do this and then go on. I think the only exception I've seen of that is where somebody used it as their year in industry. They used the role as their year in industry. But that had to be worked through in a lot of detail with the university to make that all work. But no, it does have to be either or.
Are we going to be choosing our own campaign team or will we allocated one?
No, so you would need to choose that yourself. Yeah.
How big or small can it be?
Up to you.
So I could have like 100 people.
Yeah. If you could find 100 people that wanted to help you with your campaign, you can have 100 people that can help you with your campaign.
all those 100 people would be kind of responsible for, the rules would apply to all those 100 people. So.
I'm not going to get 100 people.
I was going to say, I want to know your strategy now. But yeah, everyone that is campaigning for you does need to know the rules and abide by the rules. If one of those was to break the rules, then, say for example, someone said, oh well, if you vote for that person you can have this, that's bribery, and that would be breaking the rules. Yeah. Any other questions? There's no silly questions. Yeah.
With regards to like the social media,
Yeah.
You said like obviously make your own.
Yeah.
Is there anything stopping me from like sharing a post I've made on my campaign?
No.
To my own private
No,
social
you're
media?
allowed to do that. The reason that you can't just use, like, the reason that we say make a new one is because, firstly, you don't want election spam on your own socials that you then have to go through and delete later. But also, you would have to give us a log on to those, and we really don't want to see what you're chatting with your friends about at 4 AM. Like, we really don't. But also, it can lead to more issues around, like, if there was a perceived rule break and things, it's just easier to make a clean one. But you can absolutely share, say once campaigning opens, you put up a post that says, hey, I'm running for this role. You can absolutely then share that as a story on your own Instagram. That's fine. Yes.
Another thing with the campaigning, so if you were trying to get like a society to endorse you, do you have to wait until campaigning opens before you even ask them?
That would be classed as pre-campaigning.
Yeah, because that's keeping to gain support in the election, so therefore that is classed as campaigning.
I think another key thing, and I don't know if any of you are, if you're on a society committee, you cannot use the society committee emailing list to say vote for me, because that's using a Kent Union resource. Because you got that for a society, your members didn't sign up to be given email campaigns. Yeah.
And say there's a candidate who isn't a committee member, they don't have access to that resource. So again, that's not fair.
So will this classify as campaigning? Let's say you just have like, I don't know, a top that has like your initials and campaign for me, and you just walk into lecture. Would that count?
Yes.
Okay.
100% it would, because you put vote for me. If it was a T-shirt you already had that had your initials on it, but it didn't have vote for me, it's just your initials.
Okay.
Do you get the difference?
Yeah.
So that's the bit about like you're looking to gain support.
Okay.
Equally, like we'll say this when we get to training, don't go in the library with your campaign materials on, bring a hoodie or something to go over the top, because that will be counted as campaigning in the library if you go in with your campaign T-shirt on, because otherwise you could spend hours just walking around the library, you know, that would be something you could do, but no, don't do that.
Any questions? Yep.
And our officers that will be supporting us, do they have to be University of Kent students?
In terms of like campaign team?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So only current students can get involved in this. Yeah, your mum couldn't come campaign for you.
No, I was just thinking about like recent graduates.
I'd have to check on that one.
I'd have to check on the rules.
That's something I can take away and check for you. But yeah, I'd say generally current students are a better bet.
Any other questions?
We'll hang around for a little bit at the end anyway, so you can always come and ask us a question. If not, we will see you at one of the training sessions.
Yeah. Sort of tomorrow we'll send out kind of info about the training sessions. We'll send out the slides, the recording, and everything. Yeah, so you can kind of look back on all of this. Of course, you've got your books as well, so please again make sure you kind of look over that.
Highlight them, scribble on them, whatever. They're completely yours.
Yeah,
whatever works for you.
Yours, and I guess as well, if you do want to kind of fill out and hand in your kind of declaration forms now, while you have them here, while we're here, you're absolutely more than welcome to do so.
Hopefully this hasn't felt too scary. This is the scary part in terms of doing rules. The training session is a lot more fun and a lot more about practically how do we make this work. So come along to training sessions and we will help guide you through all that.
Yeah, we'll help you guide through it. Yeah, thank you so much for kind of attending this evening, giving up your time to be here. Appreciate we've kind of covered a lot, so thank you so much. And yeah, we're all really looking forward to kind of seeing your campaigns develop and see kind of you develop as candidates in this process.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.